What's your name?
Hi, my name is Dan with Friends of Bats.
Cool. Well, I encourage you to join Friends of Bats and become an exterminator.
Well, first off, we don't exterminate. We actually do what's called a humane exclusion, which means that we basically get the bats out of your house safely, and we don't hurt them, can't harm them. It's actually illegal to kill them. So that's what we do with them. But I got into it just by blind luck. My sister came home one day and says, "Hey, guess what? I'm going out with the Batman." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And I ended up going and helping just after I met John, my brother-in-law John at the time, and started helping him with small jobs here and there just to learn about it a little bit, and got to where I like doing it, and now we do it full time.
Yeah, so why the bats pick our house to live in?
Oh, well, the same reason you pick your house actually is you're looking for a location, nice location, nice to get into, close to food and water, and so basically they were able to find a nice opening in your roof that's you've got water nearby, lots of mosquitoes and bugs and things for them to eat. So they said, "Hey, this is a good place," and moved right on in.
What kind of bats are they?
Well, you probably have two different kinds of bats in here. Mostly in Florida, there's two different species of bats that will live in a house. You've got what's called an evening bat, which is a very small bat. All bats in Florida are considered micro bats. And evening bats are pretty solitary. A couple, a dozen or so bats is a large colony. The bigger number of bats that you have would be what we would call a free-tail bat, a Mexican free-tail bat. And they are very social, live in colonies of tens of thousands, and in fact out in some places millions in caves. So that's what you have here. And they've been here a lot longer than I have been. They are considered a native bat to Florida.
How do we keep them out?
Big things to keep bats out is you have to prevent them from being able to get into your house. Bats are very territorial, so they only need about a ½ inch gap to get in. So if we get them out of one part of your house, they're going to look for another hole. They'll do what we call pinging, and they'll fly along your roof line looking for another way in. And if they find a gap, right back in. So the important thing is that we have to do is we need to prevent them from being able to get back in your house. Understanding that we are working on your roof, so we have to also allow for air and water to flow where it's supposed to, because some of the cracks in your roof are there to allow the water to drain off your roof and the air to keep it dry. So that's where it can be complicated sometimes, is knowing how to seal the roof up properly so that we keep bats out but let air and water flow.
What insects do they eat?
These guys will eat any kind of small flying insects. In Florida, they eat mostly like mosquitoes, small moths, gnats, any kind of flying insect that will fly at night. And these bats will eat between 2,000 to 3,000 flying insects at night. A pregnant or nursing female can eat 3,000 to 4,000 flying insects a night, which is part of why they are protected by state law, because they do such a good job of controlling the bug population.
Where are their young?
These bats generally have one, maybe two pups a year, and they are born live. They're just like a human baby. They're completely dependent on mom. They're live birth, and they will right up in their colony. They'll have their babies there. For the first few months, they're completely dependent upon mom. Mom has to go out and eat and then come back to feed the babies. They breastfeed. Generally, babies are born around the 1st of May, and generally by the end of August or end of July, 1st of August, they're starting to fly and then be independent, and then they can go off and live on their own. And in the state of Florida, by state law, bats are protected. So you cannot do a bat exclusion from April 15th until August 15th to protect the bats.
Bat maternity season, right?
Bat maternity season, yeah.
How are the young fed?
The young are breastfed, just very much like a human baby. When they're first born, they're completely helpless, and much like a human.
Are bats assigned different jobs like ants?
To be honest with you, I really don't know that, but bats pretty much go out and they all have to eat and feed and take care of themselves, and that's what they do. There's not a lot of in the colony. They're using voids in a roof or open spaces. They don't chew or build or do anything like that, like an ant different colonies will a colony each will have workers that do different things to build the colony and feed the colony. These guys are pretty much responsible for themselves on that, and because they don't chew or anything, they're not building a nest. They're using what's already available.
What are the dangers to having a bat in our house?
A couple dangers. Nothing that's, some of it sounds real scary, but if you know the risk, it's not. One of the biggest ones is rabies, and bats in the general population have about 0.5% of the overall bat population can have rabies at any given time. Statistically speaking, you're more likely to get rabies from your dog than you are from a bat. That being said, if you have a colony of a couple thousand bats in your house, it is a risk. So you want to be cautious about getting in contact with them, being contacted by a bitten or by a bat. If you ever see one active during the daytime, you got to consider it's probably sick, because bats by nature will not be out active during the daytime. And if you see one on the ground, you really want to steer clear. Good thing is bats have such a small body mass; they're only 2 to 3 inches big. They will die fairly quickly once they really become sick. The other risk is histoplasmosis, which is a respiratory disease, which is caused by breathing a mold spore that grows on the droppings. And in order to contract that, you would have to breathe in enough of the mold spores, or come in contact with like your eyes or something, where that could grow and spread. Histoplasmosis is naturally occurring in nature. It's probably in the ground you're standing on. Where it becomes a problem for you is when you get so much of it that it overpowers your defense system, your natural immunity to it. And that happens from being inside an enclosed area where you've had a lot of guano and the bat poop built up, which is a great growing medium for the mold spores. Once that becomes stirred up in an enclosed space, those mold spores release and you can breathe them in. There's no ventilation, so it puts it in a really high concentration for you to breathe in. Those are the two big things, health problems that you have, biggest health problems that you have with bats. The other thing is if you're got a respiratory thing or just sensitive, the smell of the urine and the ammonia in your urine can cause sinus kinds if you get too close for too long.
What is your funniest bat story?
Well, to me, that's all kind of fun. That's why I kind of like doing this, because it's fun. One of the funnier things we did, we worked on a sugar factory, and that had bats up in a tower on the roof. And by where we were working, they had a vent where all the sugar, where they were processing and packing the sugar, it vented all the dust out the roof. As we were working there, and the sugar dust is blowing out the vent, when we end up coming off the roof, it looked like a bunch of powdered donuts, just cut with white sugar all over you.